welcome to another wonderful edition of Sports 101. As always, we are live on the sets tonight, and like we do on Sundays, we are live to discuss all of the major topical issues that happened in the world of sports in the course of the week. And tonight we have some very interesting um, menu on our table, and we want to indulge all of our listeners and our viewers to keep their set and to keep their YouTube account solely on Sports 101. As always, we are streaming live from Sports 101 on YouTube, and then we have partnered with Taddy 90 streaming live on Taddy 99.1 FM. We would indulge your we would crave your indulgence to, as it were, hop in onto the YouTube page and kindly share, comment, and then join us with the live stream over there. To our friends in the diaspora, go. I know a lot of you are very interested in tonight's show because tonight is supposed to be the night where Lucky gets to get shaved eventually because of the solemn promise that he made on set that if Arsenal bottles the league title, he's going to allow himself to be shaved. And so we await the triumphant entry of Lucky into the studio. I'm pretty sure that he's somewhere involved a bit with the production guys and should be on set anytime soon. Same as Percy. Tonight we want to discuss some few issues, and before my friends join me on set, we look at the top four race in the EPL. People think that virtually it's sealed. I've always held that notion weeks ago that it was always going to be that particular order. And this yesterday, City had to win the league trophy because Arsenal were eventually beaten by Nottingham Forest. Nottingham Forest, by virtue of that particular win, gets to extend their stay in the EPL. And so City, like we've predicted for a long time, like I've said for a long time, are league champions, and it's official. City are league champions, and they have won the league the fifth time in 6 years. That's quite a number, and they are league champions. Arsenal are going to be second, and then we will look at the other parties involved. Newcastle, we will look at Manchester United, we will look at the late surge by Liverpool, and then we'll probably look at some of the teams that have been some of the most promising teams in the course of the EPL, and then we will delve a bit deeper into that particular segment. We will delve deeper into that particular segment, and then we'll try to explore the subject of why City have been so dominant in the league. We'll try to explore that subject matter. Why have they been so dominant? A lot of people have said that it's down to the money available to Pep Guardiola. There's been a lot of narrative out there in the public media. There's been a lot of narrative out there in the traditional media. Why do you think that City have become so dominant, especially under Pep Guardiola? If you are watching us live on YouTube, kindly hop to the YouTube page and drop your comments there. Why do you think the City have been so dominant? We'll try and explore that particular perspective. We'll explore that particular angle, and then we'll take a look at some of the things that are happening in the NBA. Yesterday, we were live on set, and Percy and myself talked about the Lakers. The Lakers are in a big hole. I will be the first to admit that the Lakers are in a big hole. All throughout the course of the playoff season, together with the playing competition, the Lakers had played 7 games at home and lost none of them. By yesterday, the Denver Nuggets walked into town, the number one contenders in the West. They walked into town. Jokic and his boys, Jamal Murray, Kentavious Caldwell Pope, and all of the guys, Aaron Gordon, and all of those guys, Michael Porter Jr., they walked into town and then they did one over the Lakers. So as we speak now, the Lakers are on the verge of being swept. I didn't think that I would ever say these comments, but the Lakers are on the verge of being swept. They are losing 3-0 to the Denver Nuggets. The Denver Nuggets are one game away from making it to the NBA final. And I think that for Coach Malone and his boys, that will be an absolute feat for them to get this far. Tonight also we get to pair the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics, and I'm pretty sure that that game is going on as we speak now, the Miami Heat and the Boston Celtics. And then we'll look at all of the happenings in the NBA. Is LeBron's long reign as the king over? Will Anthony Davis be able to lead the Lakers team once LeBron walks away from the table? Do the Lakers keep that supporting cast? I mean, what happens to Austin Reeves? Already there's talk about the fact that there are a lot of teams that are lining up to pay him more than the 50 million pounds that the Lakers are supposed to be paying him. There are lots of teams who are gathered and are willing to pay more for the signature of that young, undrafted, but hugely talented boy. So we'll look at all of those other small, little tiny details, and then let's start with the EPL, the top four. I'd want us to go back to the beginning of the season. Beginning of the season, we made a couple of predictions, and for those of us who have been following this particular show, we, in our very premier episode, we made discussions, we made projections, we did a lot of tangibles, and then we did a lot of what if arguments, you understand? And beginning of season, there were a lot of changes to some of the major teams in the EPL. We talk about the fact that City had to augment their squad. They had to make key purchases. So they brought in people like Akanji. They brought in Alcaraz. Is that Alcaraz? Alvarez. Yes, they brought in Alvarez. And then Julian Alvarez, the striker. And then they did some reinforcement in there. Liverpool, on the other hand, had to bring in my very good friend, the striker. And then they also had to bring in some other player. Yes, they had to bring in some other players. They looked at where their shortfalls were. Arsenal also did some key purchases. And so you look at the Arsenal purchases, you look at some of the players that they had to bring on board eventually. And then Manchester United, the biggest issue with Manchester United had to be a change in the coaching direction. After all of the rots that we had seen and in the previous direction and the direction that the Glazers wanted to go, it boiled down to a choice between Mauricio Pochettino and then Eric Ten Hag. Eventually, they had to stick with Eric Ten Hag. So I remember in our very first episode, the narrative was that Eric Ten Hag was going to be the biggest signing of the Manchester United in the Manchester United dressing room. And yes, lo and behold, he was the biggest signing. On came many high-profile signings. Lisandro Martinez was one of them. Anthony, I'll speak about Anthony very soon. Anthony was one of them. Then you had guys like the left fullback who came in from Feyenoord, you understand? And so Manchester United also did some very significant. Then mid-season they had to bring in the likes of the Weghorst, you understand? They came in, and when the season began, I remember Manchester United playing against Brighton. And then that was a massacre. That was a welcome home Eric Ten Hag. Welcome home Eric Ten Hag. From that point, the narrative was that Manchester United are in a bigger trouble than they could ever find themselves. And the truth was that the word on the street was that, are we really sure about this manager? Is this manager the guy who is supposed to take Manchester United to the promised land? Are we sure about the qualities of this manager in the Dutch league? Roll on and on and on and on. Liverpool have had their issues, major issues with injuries. They have had a non-consistent defense. They have had issues with their attack. They have had bigger issues with their midfield. And so Liverpool, who were one of the prime contenders for the league title, eventually had to end before it even began, because there were issues with their defense. I mean, Alexander-Arnold, Robertson, Van Dijk, whoever had to pair with Van Dijk, and yes, they had to bring in Konate. Whoever had to pair with Van Dijk, there was not that element of consistency with Liverpool. So Liverpool began very well, but they began losing a lot of steam. They began losing a lot of matches. Then ill confidence drifted into their ranks, eventually had some lousy results coming in their favor. And by the time the season was in the middle, Liverpool had virtually dropped far away from the top. And so the narrative was that, okay, Liverpool are not really one of the candidates supposed to be challenging Manchester City, who are always going to be a constant in this particular league title race. Then there was the surprise element, Arsenal. Arsenal had everything in place. Obviously, they had a very good manager in Mikel Arteta, who had handled the project for years. I think that this was going to be his fourth season, had handled the project for a very long time, had made key purchases. And everybody said that, okay, listen, we are bringing in Zinchenko from Man City. We are bringing in Gabriel Jesus from Man City. We had to bring in Trossard from Brighton in mid-season. But the issue is that Arsenal hit the deck running. They hit the deck running. And eventually, they had become the darling boys of many folds. People who did not really love soccer, people who were not so much enthused about soccer, people who prior to this point were not so much engaged in everything the APL, began falling in love with Arsenal because of how they began, because of how they were running the project, because of how they had a young manager who had the ability to galvanize a very young team together, and were playing some of the most delightful soccer around. On we go. And then City, they don't really start well. Erling Haaland had to come in. And then the question was that, will they be able to survive in the APL? Will they be able to hit the heights that we have predicted of Erling Haaland? Will they be able to make that difference in this particular City team? Because the narrative back then, I do not want to sound a broken record, but the narrative once again was that this City team, even without playing with a striker, was able to rack over 90 goals, was able to rack a number of goals. And so will Erling Haaland be the focal point? The argument also was that Pep Guardiola has not always done very well with his central striker. And so with Erling Haaland coming in, I mean, say Lewandowski at Bayern Munich, and to a large extent, that inverted number 9 role by Lionel Messi when he was very successful with Barcelona. He has not really done very well with an out-and-out striker. So people question that, listen, with Erling Haaland coming in, and then he slots into a Pep team that is not really used to playing with a top number 9 as the focal point, will they be able to survive? I remember some of the commentary that were made just after the Community Shield, where we had to pitch Erling Haaland against Darwin Núñez. And I think that in that particular duel, Erling Haaland was inferior to Darwin Núñez. And so the theory was that, I mean, will this guy be able to make the EPL? Will he be able to make the grade? Hey, my good friend Jamie Carragher came out to question the essence of City adding Erling Haaland to their team. He even came out to say boldly that Erling Haaland was not going to add anything to the City team, and that City being City did not really, in essence, need Erling Haaland. If you're watching me on YouTube, drop your comments on some of the narratives that I have put out there. We are looking at the top 4 race in the EPL. We are looking at what has really happened. So, I mean, let's do a bit of conversation regards that one. What do you make of the things that Erling Haaland had to say about, Carragher had to say about Erling Haaland, and some of the things that have gone on to manifest in the course of the season? So let's look at some of these things. Let's look at the conversation. Manchester United did not begin so well. They did not begin so well. They were faltering all over the place. People questioned them. People called the manager into check. People made sure that Manchester United were going to be the central point of focus regards every commentary at the beginning of the season. People even doubted some of the signings that were made by Manchester United. Were they going to be on the right path? Were they going to be that team that everybody envisaged they would be under Erik ten Hag? Because Erik ten Hag had built a successful, in fact, 2 successful Ajax teams. And so was he going to be that manager that eventually would take Manchester United back to the glory days? But all in all, we roll. City have won the league. Arsenal have placed second. It looks like some of the predictions that we have constantly carried out in the studio are going to come true. Newcastle are going to be in the top 4. And then Manchester United are going to be in the top 4, should be in the top 4, because they have 2 games to spare. They have to play against Fulham at Old Trafford, and they have to play against Chelsea at Old Trafford, and they need just a point from those 2 games to make it to the Champions League. With the sort of record Manchester United have had at home this season, they have played 17 home games, won 13, drawn 3, and have lost only 1. They have lost only 1 at home. With this sort of record, I mean, Manchester United definitely is very formidable at Old Trafford. So they will be in the top 4. But let me digress a bit and talk about why I think, in fact, let me try to engage that subject matter. Why do you think City is so much dominating the league? I've heard a lot of narratives. People have talked about the fact that Pep Guardiola and his City team have turned their EPL into a farmers' league. Because, for the record, they have won the league 5 times out of 6 in the last 6 years. But hey, this is the reason why you need to watch Sports 101. This is not the first time this is happening in the league. In fact, Sir Alex Ferguson and his Manchester United team in a stretch in the 90s up until they won the treble in 99, also had to win the league 5 times in 6 years. They had to win the league 5 times in 6 years. So, yes, I mean, we all love the narrative, but this is nothing absolutely new. But why is City dominating the league? Are they the richest? Do they have the most depth in squad? Do they have the brightest talent? Are their scouting units working very well? Are they making sure that they are grabbing the best talent on the international level at the cheapest price? Why is it City are dominating the league? Let me attempt to start from this particular narrative. From every point, the biggest dog in the dressing room, and forgive me if my language sounds a bit like the streets language, but the biggest dog in every dressing room has to be the manager. City have gone on the trend they are working on because there is Pep Guardiola. End of story. There is Pep Guardiola. I am not the biggest admirer of Pep Guardiola. But the point is simple. If you look at the guy's record, if you look at the guy's CV, if you look at what he's been able to do in his career, the perceived changes that he's brought to football, obviously you do not need a rocket scientist to know that City are walking the thread they are walking now. Yes, I mean, we cannot discount the money that has been pumped into building this City team the way it is today. But the biggest dog in that City dressing room has to be Pep Guardiola. You see, we have talked about Arsenal, and I have said that, I mean, if Arsenal are a serious club, they need to quiz and hold a grand inquiry into why they had to bottle it. And yesterday, the loss against Nottingham Forest, I think, reinforces that point that has to be made. That Arsenal, if they're a serious club and want the whole world to take them serious, they need to hold a grand inquiry into that self-capitulation in the final home stretch of the league run. But you look at this City dressing room, you look at the influence of Pep Guardiola, you look at the players he's been able to put together, you ask yourself basic questions. In every title run that they've been in, I'm pretty sure that there have been some self-doubts in the dressing room, and I'm pretty sure that the players who are very much not experienced have looked across their shoulders and have asked themselves basic questions. They have asked themselves basic questions that, really, do we trust the guy who is the captain of the ship? And I think that if you look at all of the elements around why City are dominating the league now, the first element for me, that has to be the most important element, has to be the presence of their coach, Pep Guardiola. He's the guy who has been able to instill a lot of confidence. He's been able to navigate the team through some of the most difficult stretches. He's been able to fend off ferocious attacks from Liverpool, from Arsenal. I've been doing lots of talking. But thank God the Northern Cavalry is in now.
Northern Cavalry?
Yeah, the Northern Cavalry is in. Hello, Percy.
Okay. Hello.
I don't know why your friend is running away from the set. He's still involved with the production guys, Percy. I mean our friend Lucky. I don't know why he's running away from the set.
Yes, I'm sure he probably wants to take a few photo shoot with his hair because of...
Before he shapes it up finally?
Yes. I'm sure that's the reason why he's stalled. And when you talk of Northern Cavalry, you were bringing the history in me, trying to remember the slave trade and how it was being abolished in U.S. and all that. But that just by the way. And I mean, I was just listening to everything, and with the way you started praising Arteta, and before I realized you sent him to the cleaners with respect to whatever he's done.
I hold the perspective that Arsenal, if they're a serious club, need to hold a grand inquiry into why they self-capitulated. Because listen, we talked about the brilliance of City. Before you walked in on set, we were talking about the fact that why is this City team dominating? We're trying to look at the perspectives why the City team is seemingly dominating the EPL. Yes, it's happened before, but they have won their 5th league title in 6 years, you understand? Mm-hmm. And I was saying that if you look at this City team and the manner that they had to win this particular league, and the emphasis has to be on this particular league, I do not think that it was down to the brilliance of City. No, nobody can convince me that it was down to solely the brilliance of City. I think it was down to Arsenal capitulating and then losing steam at the most crucial moment. Look at how they hand over the title to hand the title to City eventually. Look at how they cowered into submission against Nottingham Forest. Look at some of the things that have happened.
With respect to Arsenal's capitulation, I can't agree with you better, because 248 days, that's almost 250 days, which is unprecedented. The last time something like this happened, I told you, was Newcastle, and Newcastle was around 220 something.
But wait, 240 days is the equivalent, 48 days is the equivalent of 8 months.
8 months, yeah.
Wow.
So they were actually on top for 8 footballing months. And you know, football is played over a period of 9 months. So 8 of the 9 months, Arsenal was on top.
No, but this is unpardonable.
It's just like getting pregnant for 8 months and just aborting. That 8 months abortion.
Unimaginable.
And what you were saying is undoubtedly true. True in the sense that for everything that happened in the beginning of the season, Arsenal probably would say that at the beginning they didn't have it in mind to win the league because it was the third season of Arteta, and seasons before we realized that the teams that had actually grown into being contenders were City and Liverpool. Because last season, for instance, Liverpool really gave City a run for their money. United had brought in Ten Hag. Of course, we were not expecting Ten Hag to win the league, but based on the additions and the run that we were on, we're expecting them to do something. We're not expecting Newcastle. Probably the best is maybe what they've achieved, a third or a fourth. So Arsenal within the course of the season, I think that one of the times that actually made them lose the title was the January transfer. The January transfer is what made them actually lose the title because they were on top throughout all through to December and January. And January, they had the chance to make additions. And you know that one of the things that actually won City is their squad depth. If you take a center forward, they have about 2 potent, maybe the main one being Haaland, the second one being Julian Alvarez, who is the number one for Argentina. If you take that is their attacking midfield, they have about 5 to 6. There's Bernardo Silva, there's Kevin De Bruyne, there's Riyad Mahrez, there's Jack Grealish, there's Ilkay Gundogan. They can even bring in Phil Foden. That is 6. So they have the luxury of starting 3 and leaving 3, and they could play any of them. Defensive midfield, he adopted the system such that now Rodri would not be the only person to play. He could bring John Stones in. He has a back line of about 5 to 6 competence. Kyle Walker can play at the back. He has John Stones. Aymeric Laporte is there, who doesn't even play often. There is Diaz. There is Akanji. All of these players can start. So, and even with the goalkeeping, of course, he has a very able goalkeeper in Ederson. So there were a plethora of players, and this is a team you were competing against. But with Arsenal, if you take goalkeeper, that is Ramsdale, of course, with his exploits, I would say that this season has been a breakout season for him. With his exploit that he started with, it was actually supposed to be Ben Leno, but Ben Leno's injury made him become the number one. The back line, they started, of course, they brought in Saliba to come and complement Gabriel. They leaving, David Luiz and his cohorts to leave, so it was just the two of them. So it means it was just Saliba and Gabriel. For City, I've mentioned 6.
6 centre backs.
6 centre backs. So these two are the centre backs. The right back, you could talk of, they had to make a makeshift of, that is the one who plays their right back. I've forgotten his name. I'll just make it available to you. They had to make Ben White. He's not a right back.
Arsenal, you're talking about?
Arsenal, he's not a right back. But they had to make him play the right back. Tomiyasu started well, but because of injuries and inconsistencies. Then left back, they had Tierney. Of course, for the left back, they had Tierney and Zinchenko. That was okay. But the midfield was the problem. Partey started very well. Pre-World Cup, after World Cup, Partey was still in form. But you realize that whenever Partey was off form, Arsenal's ascendancy or Arsenal's transition into attack and defense was a problem. It was something that we sat here, we talked about it. So we were expecting that in January they make a replacement, and they did. They replaced Partey, but they never replaced Xhaka. So they brought someone that could be the defensive midfielder, but who makes the advances? You take away Xhaka, there is no one. And they played 2 holding midfielders.
But they could have brought Trossard in that particular
But
role.
when they brought in Trossard, they rather decided to send him on a number 9 or a wing. So they brought in, and the 3 behind the striker, Martinelli, Odegaard, and Saka, had no replacement. There was sometimes they would bring in Reece Nelson and all of these guys.
But to be fair to us now, I think that there was Gabriel replaced effectively with Eddie Nketiah.
Very good. I am not even for that was effectively replaced. Yeah. But I realized even Eddie Nketiah had an injury. Yeah. But those who were giving you the goals was not your center for, because Gabriel Jesus has never given 20 goals. He never gives 20 league goals a season. He was always an auxiliary number 9, unless maybe Aguero is not there. Sometimes he plays from the wing. Sometimes he plays with 2 center forwards. So if you wanted goals, your goals were coming from the Saka on the right, Martinelli on the left, and Odegaard. This is the first time in a very long time that three players from one team have all given double figures in the league. So there was no replacement for Saka. There was no replacement for, what do you call it, Martinelli. There was no replacement for Odegaard.
But you guys pundits, you make it look like it is easy to get replacements for every guy, because we're talking about, listen, per the standards of Arsenal and per the standards of the league, we are talking about 3 superstars.
No problem.
Forgive my diction, but Martinelli together with Gabriel, Jesus, and then Saka, they have been revelations. And it was always going to be difficult going to the market and then spending X amount of money for the replacement of these guys. And listen, I mean, you would not want to put yourself in the conundrum that Liverpool finds themselves in. You would have so many attacking players who are not getting game time because they were bought at points where the people they were supposed to replace are injured, and then the people who are supposed to be replaced come back from injury, and then there's a plethora of same type of players. How do you handle those?
I'm not really saying that. I'm not really saying that Arsenal it's a problem.
Well, before you go on, I think that we are still talking about the dominance of City, why the City team have become so dominant in the APL. And the guy has decided to recuse himself from the rest of the production team. Lucky is finally here. I'm pretty sure that, I mean, I've read some of the comments on the YouTube page. People want you here. They want a word from you. Today is the day you promised that you were going to go under the knife, that you were going to let your hair go under the knife. And so people have tuned in, people are listening live on Tardy 99.1 FM, and they are hoping that today, have you brought the Clippers?
But the season is not over.
Which one?
Your people surrounded, they surrounded yesterday.
Honestly, this is a
They
very
surrounded
serious show.
Okay.
And we take our words seriously.
So, guys, I would like to first of all render an unqualified apology. I think that I was very callous in my decision making.
Callous.
To even
Callous.
think that
You were reckless.
Reckless, callous.
It won't insulate you.
I was very unsincere.
No, it won't.
In terms of my
it
own.
will not insulate
Guys,
you.
I apologize for.
Percy, Percy, I think that we need to.
So on behalf, can you guys, on behalf of the
Well,
team,
Percy, I
can
think
you
that
forgive me?
no, Percy, I think that we need to run a live poll between the 3 of us.
Should my hair go for
Should his hair go?
But
No,
this,
if you leave my face in the
Let everybody who wants his hair to go say aye.
I
2 against 1. Lucky, it's going.
You should understand that
It's going.
giving apologies, we even have serial killers who give apologies. That is not enough. They are still convicted. Yes, they apologize to the judges in court. Yes.
Oh. Yes.
The
We
Clippers.
have the Clippers on radio. If you are watching us live on YouTube,
Yes.
the Clipper is finally here.
This is not.
And no,
Please.
that is exactly what we want to do.
This is adjustable.
Yes.
This is adjustable.
This is exactly what we want to do.
If you use this, you might
The
kill
power button has been switched on. If you can get the camera close to us, I mean, it's on. They can see it's on. The power button is on, and we'll probably, Percy, you would have to do us the honest.
Yes, I when I was in K University, there were some few times that my roommates made me do
Yeah,
honest.
yeah. No, your hair.
No,
is
we don't need to be
going.
professional.
But the hair will
It
go.
is going.
But the hair will go
Yeah.
back today.
Oh, it is going
No.
today.
No.
It should have actually been
It
yesterday
is
because it
going
was
today.
You know, I promise.
Please put the power off. I mean,
Let-
we want to
let's-
save the power.
Yeah, the hair will go off, but,
Yeah.
but
Today.
I want to plead your indulgence a little bit because I actually have a program on Tuesday, Wednesday.
Doesn't
No,
matter.
but
Because I cannot go for that program.
No, that's a new
No,
look.
so tell them you are reckless,
Yeah, that's
and
what-
you have paid for the
I'm
recklessness.
apologizing, guys.
I
Forgive
mean,
me.
how do you put all of your faith in Arsenal? Even when we warned you, Even when
warned you.
reprimanded
In
we
fact,
are
there's
running a poll live on our YouTube
those
page.
who want your hair.
Those who want your hair to go today.
So some people don't even actually know what's happening, but what is happening is that I actually, in the course of the season, I put my neck on the line for Arsenal, that Arsenal were going to win the league ahead of Manchester City. And should it happen that City win the league, I actually, agree that the guy should shave my hair. But to be honest, I do not know what I was thinking back then.
So you were under the influence of alcohol. You were under the influence of.
Think that if this City team are chasing you, if the team is going to do the unthinkable, it will be Arsenal. I don't know what I was actually drinking or smoking, but then, guys, I apologize. But my head, they will go up, but not today.
So are you synonymous to Carragher?
Well,
because you said the same thing about Carragher. And the way
as it is now, it's a massive nay in your favor. 88% of the people think that your hair should go today. Your hair should go off today, and only 12%. And I'm pretty sure.
I think they are church members. They are the church members.
Your church members and your wife and your kid. You understand? And I'm sure that forms the constitution of the 12%. They are really in agreement of the fact that your hair needs to go off. So if Percy does not want to do the honors, I will.
I definitely.
At the tail end of the show must go on. The show must go on.
No, but this is an important component of this show.
Very, very important.
The show must go. But guys, if you are watching this is our live transmission on YouTube. We are also live on Tadi FM 99.1. This is Sports 101, and today, Sunday, is our review show. We are reviewing every single thing that has taken place in the course of the week. So if you just join us and you are new to this channel, make sure you subscribe to our channel, and more importantly, for the super stickers. For our lovers out there in the diaspora and those who can support us with some super stickers, just support us. We appreciate you very, very much.
Just before you guys walked in on set, I was looking at the perspectives why this City team has become so dominant, and then conquering almost everything. And the caveat was simple. I've said that this is not the first time a team has won the league 5 times in 6 years. I even ran that commentary that prior to Manchester United winning the treble in '99, they went on that sequence where they won 5 out of the 6 league titles in the early 90s and the late 90s. And so this is not the first time it's happened in the history of the EPL. But Lucky, why do you think the City team is so dominant? I have spoken about the big dog in the dressing room being the manager, and that every team virtually, like the cliche we've come to accept, is molded in the framework of the manager. Why do you think this City team have become so dominant? Well, I mean, what are some of the factors that have made them all conquering?
I think officially, let me say congratulations to Manchester City for winning the title. I mean, 5 in 6, 5 in 7 is something that needs to be commended. I think there are a plethora of reasons. First of all, you can talk about the initiation or the establishment of a proper plan. You can have all the money, you can have the best players around, you can have even the best manager around. If you do not have a plan to any project, the project will fail at the tail end. I would cite typical examples. Chelsea as a typical example. They've actually spent close to £600 million in one transfer window, but because there's as in 2 transfer windows, summer and January, but in one season they spent close to £600 million. But because there's no structure and plan to whatever they are doing, they have a collection of lots of expensive players. Enzo Fernandez went for over £100 million. Modric 70 plus. So it's not so much about the money. It's not so much about high-profile players. It's about having a structure and a plan. And if you look at this City team, that is what they have. Yes, they do have money in the bank to spend, but there's a structure to it. Yes, they have quality players in their books, but there's a structure to everything that they do. So first and foremost, it's down to they having a structure and a plan, which is key. 2, it's about they having quality manager at their disposal. We can say a lot about Pep Guardiola, we can double a lot, but the man is a very good manager. You can't discount that. And you spoke about he being the elephant in the room, he being the top dog. His ability to translate his ideas or what he has in mind to the hearts of the players, and for them to be able to deliver on the pitch year in, year out for 5 seasons or 5 in 6 seasons, Kofi, is commendable. When Ralph Ragnick talked about that in a coaching conference, said that they are good managers, but what distinguishes good managers from great managers is the fact that great managers are able to get the players to buy into the idea and deliver on the pitch, because it's not an easy thing. Percy always talks about being able to motivate yourself year in, year out, especially when you've self-actualized. When it comes to the Premier League, Kyle Walker has done it 5 times. So what motivation is there to get to have him do it again? What motivation is there to get to have Kevin De Bruyne do it again?
It's amazing you mentioned Kyle Walker. A couple of weeks ago, Pep Guardiola said that Kyle Walker cannot walk into his team because he does not have the energy levels to play in the role that he's assigned him to play. Fast forward, in the most important, in some of the most important stretches of that City team, this City team, in their quest to get into the Champions League final and then winning the league title, Kyle Walker walks back into the team and is able to handle about one of the best players in the world, Vinicius Junior. I look at that particular. I have watched the second leg of that game between. I've watched the second leg of that game between City and Real Madrid over and over again. I've tried to recollect every single event that happened in that particular game, and there was a point that Vinicius Junior stole a 20 meter
gap between himself and Kyle Walker.
Exactly.
Yeah, I remember.
And then Kyle Walker eventually caught up with him
and took the ball away.
Well, I think that's down to the brilliance and
of the manager
and the motivation of the manager.
Yeah, because with especially that game, if you check Pep Guardiola and the tactics he used, it was more or less like he played a very high line, but for everything he left Kyle Walker to be on Vinicius, and if if you forget it, before you forget, Kyle Walker is actually one of the fastest players you can ever think of, and for that game, I would say that the difference between Kyle Walker and Trent, because the two of them came in contact with Vinicius, the difference between Kyle Walker and Trent Alexander-Arnold. One has to be experienced, and the other one has to do with their defensive prowess. Because for whatever Kyle Walker is, if you watch him at Tottenham, when he started, he was actually like a Kieran Trippier. He was playing free kicks. He was actually the one who was the dead ball specialist. But when he came to City, because for City, there are so many dead ball specialists, and hardly do City rely on their fullbacks to be the ones to do their crosses, and because they don't do a lot of crosses. It forced him to develop his defensive prowess. So he being an attacker already, because I told you when he was at Tottenham, he actually scored one of the best goals of the season. Is it in the 15-16 season? He scored a very beautiful free kick against one of the teams. So being at Manchester City, with the type of and the system that they played, he was forced to work more on his defense, because for the attacking, Kevin De Bruyne, Bernardo Silva.
So you think that the manager forces the players to go the extra mile?
Of course. It's not necessarily about the manager.
Like because I've heard a certain narrative that the best teams in the world work the hardest. References have been made to Pep Guardiola's teams. I mean, if you look at the amount of kilometers they run on every match day, they could be the best talented squad, but they work the hardest. If you do not work hard, you do not get into this team.
He spoke on a bit on the working hard. I think recently he granted an interview in relation to Riyad Mahrez, and he says Mahrez is one of the most talented players he's seen, but he thinks he chooses when to play football, and his work rate is not up there as is expected of him. And if you've watched Mahrez carefully and consistently,
he's drifted in and out of
exactly. There are times when you go like,
he did the same to Foden, actually.
Who is this guy? But there are times when you wonder, what is Riyad Mahrez? So, like I was saying, it's down to a plan, and in that plan, there are a plethora of issues in their recruitment, they've got it spot on, close to about 80% of
Why
the time.
is it that City gets it so spot on?
And I think that is because they have, you see, if you watch Manchester City, Pep Guardiola,
sorry not to cut you,
Yeah.
but I look at Akanji.
50
And
million,
then
Dortmund.
I look at how he had to walk away from Borussia Dortmund. And then I look at who he's become today. He's become almost a miniature Vincent Kompany. How do City get it so right?
You know, Pep Guardiola is actually not in charge of recruitment. It's done by Tiki Begistani and Marian Soriano,
Who was his mate at Barcelona.
They actually ran recruitment. But for every recruitment, they ran it by Pep Guardiola. And from what I've researched, they actually have profile of players. And one of the the things they look out for is a player that can play in multiple positions. So if you look at City, most of their recruitment and most of the players that City have gone out for, most of the players can actually play in multiple positions. Akanji has slotted in right back on several occasions. Nathan Ake has slotted in left back, central midfield. Likewise, Kyle Walker, even left back. Jacques Cancelo. I mean, for last season, he literally played at left back all his life. John Stones is actually being developed into an inverted midfielder of a sort. So it's like they actually have a plan, and every single element of that plan, Kofi, is not working. Yes, the element of money comes to play, because in this dispensation of football, you cannot attain a certain level of success without spending big. Liverpool bought Keita for how much? 60 million plus. Yep. But look at the trajectory of Naby Keita. Liverpool bought Naby Keita in the same season City bought Rodri. But look at the progression and the trajectory of Rodri compared to Naby Keita, his trajectory and his progression. Liverpool bought this guy, what's his name? Darwin Núñez.
Dashin.
I'm not talking about.
He's called Dashin Núñez.
Darwin Núñez for 80 million plus. But look at his progression and trajectory. So for me, it's about, you can have all the money, you can have all the right personnel, but if there's no plan and structure to anything that you are doing, it will be messy and it will be messed up. And I think that City are where they are showing their dominance, and dominance is akin to Manchester United. When Manchester United actually maintained a certain level of consistency because there was a plan and there was somebody in charge who controlled everything. If you look at City, despite everything, Pep Guardiola controls a lot of the elements in the dressing room. When you go to Manchester
United were very successful, there was that 1-2 connection between David Gill and Alex Ferguson. They almost had this spot on.
There should always
From
be
Chicharito
that element
to
there.
Nani to Cristiano Ronaldo to all of those transfers they made. I mean, low profile but very successful players. Yes.
You should always have that element. And then I'll cite an example. Abramovich era, the Nigerian. Emiliano.
Emiliano.
And
Granovskaya by then was even in school. So, but he actually gave Mourinho the benefits of the doubt. That's what he did.
There should be that element of control, and you see, learn to know who does what, and at what point in time.
Yeah.
Because we sit here, we talk about Chelsea. Who is even signing those players? Is the manager even aware? We've spoken about the fact that literally almost every signing that has come to Chelsea right now is under the control of Todd Bowley, and we are bringing in a Mauricio Pochettino who for an entire season might not even have control over over 30 players that have been signed. He doesn't have one single player in there. So what happens if after his first training session or after the training tour, he realizes that I cannot use half of these players? Are Chelsea going back to the market to buy a new set of players? So these are some of the reasons why some of the teams in the EPL cannot catch up with Manchester City, because truth be told, they are too far gone. They've put in place the right elements, the right structures, and it's working for them. At some point, it will reach its crescendo and it will crumble at some point. But for now, they are getting things.
Good news for you. Good news for you. Should Lucky be given a shave? 91% out of the 22 votes think that yes, you need to have your hair grown.
And you think it's good news?
Yes, it's good news for the show. You understand? Because in fact, there has been 23 votes now. The live transmission stands at 87%, thinking that your hair ought to go. But let me play the devil's advocate. I have listened to a lot of commentary on the streets. I've listened to a lot of things being said about Pep Guardiola. Will Pep Guardiola ever survive if he didn't have money?
Okay, you can go
Will he ever survive if he didn't have money? This is a case study.
Is he really a checkbook manager?
See, let's be very academic here. Let's do an academic studies here. That would be better. We can only talk about if based on what we have or what has happened.
Yeah, we can talk about.
Yeah, so now what has happened is
tangibles.
Yes, the tangibles. He's coached 3 teams. And in the 3 teams that he's coached, we probably are talking about City to the maximum. But let's start with Barcelona. When he took the Barcelona team, the first Barcelona team of 08-09, there was not much of spending because by then there was the foundation that had been laid. Henry had already been bought from Arsenal. So he made do with Messi, Henry, Eto'o up front. The midfield, Busquets came from the academy. Iniesta was there, Xavi was there. Gabriel Milito was not bought by him. So Milito, there was Puyol, and there was also Keita, and there was also Adriano was there, and we also have Dani Alves. So first season,
Those Piqué.
The Piqué too was there. He had returned from Manchester United because he was their player. He came on loan. Second season was when he actually bought Ibrahimovic plus Eto'o, letting Eto'o go, and also bringing in. Third season, we had Thiago Alcantara, who was also bought. Alexis Sanchez was bought. These were players that were really bought with money. And they all came to augment the squad. So in his spending, for Barca, his spending was moderate. It's just like the spending that top managers do on a regular base. So for Barca, there was not much of spending. When he went to Bayern, he actually went to Bayern with Alcantara. When he got there, that was the first season, 13-14. He didn't actually buy any striker. But the 15-16, 14-15, that was when he bought Lewandowski. So he actually brought Lewandowski to the fold. We also had 1 or 2 players also added. So it means that place too, he actually had high-profile players coming in. Kimmich came from the academy. So when he went to Bayern, relatively, he didn't really spend so much. That it's probably maybe because of what we think of. He didn't really spend because for Bayern, they had a structure. And the system that Bayern uses to buy, you can't just go and say you want that player. He didn't say he wanted Lewandowski. Lewandowski, it is what is there. When they see a player that is on form, because by the time he came, they had already made purchase for Mario Götze. So he didn't buy Mario Götze. That was why they had to even go and destroy his ties and whatever. So he didn't buy Mario Götze. So he didn't really buy big players at Bayern. But when he came to City, he had never been given such luxury in his life. Because when he was at Barca, Juan Laporta will not just give you a player because you ask for it. But when he go to City, and even when he was at Bayern, Uli Hoeneß will not, and Karl-Heinz Rummenigge will not just give you all that chance. But when he went to these sheikhs, the sheikhs gave him absolute autonomy. He could do virtually what. So that's 1.5 or 1.2 billion, and so about 90 or 80% of it is in one club. So we've seen him become successful with relatively, I wouldn't say low budget, but moderate budgets with Barca. We've seen him become successful because the very fact that he didn't win a Champions League at Bayern does not mean he's not successful. He was relatively successful at Bayern Munich. And he has been very successful at Manchester City. And with City, you can attribute to the fact that he buys, but the other teams also buy. But he buys. But then, will he become successful without the money? I'm taking it from his own words, what he said in one interview, that people say that you are the best. And he said that, no. I wouldn't really call myself to be lucky in 2 ways. One of them is that I have gotten the chance to coach one of the best players in the world. He mentioned the likes of Messi, Iniesta, Lewandowski, and the rest. And the second thing that he said, he is also blessed to be in teams that give him what he wants. So these are his words. It does not mean that necessarily without money. When you say without money, every team would buy players.
No,
But
because I say that because if you look at how he had to transition to the EPL, yes, he had successes with the Bayern Munich, he
Yes.
had successes with Barcelona, but if you look at how he had to transition from Bayern Munich to the EPL, I remember the first season.
yeah,
It was
I was
the
actually-
worst ever
I was actually coming to that.
that he had become a coach.
Yeah, I was actually coming to that. Coming into EPL, the other two teams he went to, you could go without spending, you will win. Because for Barca had laid a template. Madrid were not so much concerned with the league, and Barca had already built a system that was working. The system even started working before he came, just that it went on a down spiral a little. But Bayern, before he came, had already won the league from 20. They had
won actually the treble.
Yeah, the treble. They won the league in 13, and he also came in. But when you go to City, it is not like the other, because if you go to Bayern or in Germany, save Bayern, who spends? Nobody spends. But that very season he came, United had already gone for 85 million of Pogba, had gone for Ibrahimovic, Mkhitaryan, all of these players in.
Lindelof.
The truth is that if he had not splashed money, because the first thing when he came, that was when he bought Nolito and Claudio Bravo and all of those likes. Then he realized that when Ademola Lookman and his people did Everton, is it 4-0 or so? Yeah. That was when the second season, he literally changed the whole backline. He let Mangala and the squad go. He brought in 3 center backs who were all amounted to 150 million. He had to bring in Kyle Walker. He had to bring in John Stones. He had to bring in, even after buying John Stones and Kyle Walker, he had to bring in Emerick Laporte in January. So by the time he was done, he has solidified his defense with almost 200 million. He had to go into attack. He had to bring Gabriel Jesus from Palmeiras in Brazil to complement what Aguero. So for me, I believe that the money aspect that he actually got in Manchester City is one of the reasons why he's. But I'm not taking away his prowess as a manager and whatever that he has actually put in and whatever system. But I believe that if he had not seen that he literally forgo most of the players that he bought in the first season. He literally had to forgo all because he bought Nolito first season. Second season, he had to let him go. Sani came. Sani had to go. All of these players came and literally had to go. Not like Sani went in the next season though. But I believe that without this money or without the pumping in of money, because he realized that the EPL, even the teams that are behind you and they're just looking for a fit or assist, were spending. So I would say that he is where he is, not only because of his tactics, but he literally had to outspend his competitors in order to do whatever that he has done with City. That is me. I don't really know.
Let me read some of the comments from their YouTube channel, and then we will take some more perspectives from my good friends over here. Halcyon Weld shows the fire emoji. Boachiwa shows the fire emoji. Then Great goes ahead to say, great. Lotton Dazi comes in to say Celtic and Heat later on today, 8:30 p.m. Eastern Time. And Brasami sends us a super sticker, £4.99. Thank you so much, Brasami. Boachiwa says, oh, I see. Kwame Legend says, yes, sir. Lawton Dazi says, City dominance due to money and spending wisely. However, they are currently in legal issues for FFP violations. I doubt if those issues will ever surface again.
No, they wouldn't.
I think that with all of the things happening in the EPL and with the might and the power and the spending power of City, I struggle to see how well this case will go, and probably struggle to see how it is going to affect their future successes. Maybe these titles may be taken back when all is said and done. That's a very lousy wish. Genesis shows the fire emoji, and then PK Justice says congratulations to Manchester City. Well deserved. Lawton Dazi goes on to say, I think Karaka said that based on the Community Shield game, Nunes scored in that game, and then Haaland was terrible or horrible in that game. Prince Entry says, congratulations, City. Emmanuel Akiti says, good, 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 good. Lawton says that Fergie also spent lots of money. Money alone is not enough. You need to spend wisely. Chelsea is a typical example of just having money. It's not enough. Will Pep win the league with this Arsenal team? I doubt it. That's another interesting perspective. Will Pep win the league with this Arsenal team? I think that looking at where Arsenal played themselves into, Pep would easily have won the league with this Arsenal team.
It was left
I
with
believe strongly
the
that
manager.
if we are swapped position, I believe that Arteta would have lost the league with City, but Pep would have won the league with this Arsenal team. PK Justice says, please bring Lucky in here. And listen, I still love the Clippers here. I still love the Clippers here. Power is still on. And I'm pretty sure that those who are watching us live on the YouTube, Lucky's hair is going to go off today.
Who says PK wants me because of my hair?
Yes, I mean, he says that, please bring Lucky here. Arsenal were just pathetic in the final third of the season. The coach was fully to be blamed. Ebenezer Tete says, congratulations, Manchester City. Daddy the pianist. Man City have a great squad. Pep Guardiola really knows what he wants. Then Ebenezer Tete comes to speak about some of the comparisons between Ole's season and then Mikel Arteta's season.
I think we should do that.
Lawton does, he says the hair must go. You have to stand by your word. Kojoye Force says it's amazing how City is making the league look extremely difficult to win. I mean, you need to make over 90 points to win it. Unthinkable. And then PHEX says congratulations to City. Well won. Arsenal were just deceiving the fans. Arsenal are a bunch of jokers. Forgive my language, but they're a bunch of absolute jokers. Then Ben.
Hey, where is your good friend Maxwell Minadonko? Wherever he is, tell him to resurface.
Well, I'm sure he's leading the charge against Arteta must go. I'm sure he's leading. Wherever he is, I'm pretty sure he's leading the charge against Arteta must go. One of the fiercest campaigners against Arteta staying at Arsenal. And then Ben Bolt says congratulations to City. Man Okansi says, I'm really enjoying the show. I'm sure that this is the first time Man Okansi is watching the show. Man Okansi says, Man City is simply unstoppable. George Pamford comes to say that City's dominance brings a lot of shame to the rest of the clubs, especially Manchester United. Now we are becoming the noisy neighbors. Well,
literally trying to say that United is taking over the tag. They are the noisy.
Well, I think United can go to sleep for 20 years and still City will still live in their shadows.
On the trajectory City are on.
I think so.
Can they be that dominant for the next 20 years?
That's a bit of
I think so. Let me take my last comments from the YouTube page. And PHA says, Pep is a fantastic coach, with or without money. It's undeniable. Yeah, we are not denying the fact that Pep is a fantastic coach. We can talk about a lot of fantastic coaches. De Zerbi is a fantastic coach, you understand? De Zerbi, the Brighton manager, is a fantastic coach. But will he be able to do what Pep has been able to do with this City team without money? No, I don't think so.
So, Kofi, you posed the question that will Pep be able to win or dominate in the manner he's dominating if he didn't have, cash to burn? And I think that Percy rightly went there. At Barca, he didn't actually burn a lot. But one thing people are forgetting is that whatever he came to meet at Barca was not what Barca used to do. A team that dominated world football in terms of club football from 2008 to 2011 was built by him. The players were there, the elements were there.
I think it's
but
was he not the guy who spent on? What's the name of that striker? David
Villa.
David Villa.
Yeah, he bought that.
I'm saying that what he spent was moderate that
exactly
and normal money, because David Villa went for 40 million, and that time he was a top striker at Valencia. So if he goes for 4, so it was just David Villa and Alexis Sanchez. then Thiago Alcantara,
And
then
you know,
like
he bought Fabregas as well. He brought in Fabregas. He brought in Zlatan.
no. Fabregas, he came in the season he left.
Yeah.
Fabregas came in
Fabregas
2012.
actually came in the
So
season 11.
with these players that he bought, and is it Mascherano? Mascherano also was bought by him. So all of these players that he bought were established players, and they were all either 30 or 40. So I'm just asserting to what Lucky was saying.
So I think that for everything Pep Guardiola at Barcelona, he built a team that modeled him. Listen, before him, the word tiki-taka was not something that was used in Spanish football. Let's establish that. The word, you know, before him, Kofi, you and I will sit here and be honest. Before him, have you ever heard anywhere anybody use that word tiki-taka?
Of course,
before Pep Guardiola.
We've said it over and over and over and over.
Let me do some little education. That particular phrase was coined by a Spanish commentator.
And it wasn't even by a Spanish that brought it.
Yes.
The point I'm trying to make here is that
maybe he brought that style of football to prominence once again. I choose my words carefully.
Exactly.
Once again.
So we need to acknowledge the fact that he built that team. Post him, we saw Luis Enrique come, and it wasn't reminiscent of what Pep Guardiola.
Yesterday we spoke about Barcelona now.
Pep Guardiola. Exactly. You see Barca now, and something is missing. So he spent at Barca, Bayern as well. I was actually going through the list, and did he buy this player for that much? At times he was buying players for 3 million, 2 million, 10 million. I was like, whoa. It's down to how Bayern do their thing, but relatively, like Percy said, I agree with Percy's point that in those two clubs, some of the players had even been bought before him. And I remember Lewandowski's contract was actually pre-signed before the arrival
so he ran down his
Pep Guardiola. But we are talking about he being, you know, spending and all of that. And I keep telling people that money does not play football. You can have all the money, you can buy all the big name players, but then if you do not get them to play the way you want to play, you cannot get results. And we can give a plethora of example. Let me give you the City team that Pep Guardiola took over. There was a reason why he totally had to do an overhaul. He took over a team that literally had an average age of 32. So Joe Hart, 28, Sanga, I mean, you remember Sanga?
Yeah.
30, Bakary Sanga, Kolarov, 30. Otamendi, 27. Fernandinho, Fernandinho, 30. Yaya Toure, 32. Jesus Navas, 30. Aguero, 27. Caballero, the goalkeeper, 34.
Hey, my man.
Fernando, 28. I'm talking about the players who were
Martin
Di
Michelis,
35. Zabaleta, 30. Clichy, 30. Nasri, 28. Fabian Delph, 26. I can go on and on. These were the players. They were going through a transition. They had won the league, but it was an aging player. And so he can entry to
an aging team.
An aging team. And this is the EPL. Trust me, he couldn't have repeated the same feat with this same players because they were average age was 32. And look at the age I mentioned. These were the key
core. Phased out the players gradually.
He actually did not do a whole
because he did. Last batch of David Silva was even just last two seasons.
The only player remaining that he came to
is Kevin De
Bruyne.
No, but so after the first season, there was a massive shift.
I think it was down to what he faced during the first season, because the first season, that was when I told he brought in Nolito and the likes.
Exactly.
So after the first season, he had about 2 or 3 maulers. And you see, there was pressure. And he was brought in to bring instant results. I told you, this City team has seen Pellegrini in, Mancini in. So he actually couldn't wait for the next season to say that he has to actually try this team.
So this is where the people who think that he is a checkbook manager.
So let me finish.
If he did not have the financial might of City,
that was an advantage to him
to implement the things that he implemented.
So what I'm saying here
irrespective of how brilliant he was.
What I'm saying here is that you have an aging team, and what you do is you phase them out. And I'll give you a typical example. Eric Ten Hag comes to meet a team that literally you and I know that they are not a well-established team. What does he do? He's gradually feeding some of the players out. So he brings in Martinez for 70 plus. He brings in your guy Anthony for or close to 80 million.
100 million.
Oh, sorry. He brings in he brings in Anthony for 100 million.
Casemiro.
He brings in Casemiro. He brings in Malacia. He brings in Varane. In one transfer season, he's made close to about 6 signings. Let's not forget Ericsson.
Where was?
Vengos. So you see, when you meet a team that is on the decline,
yes,
no matter how good you are a manager, some may try to do it gradually. Some too may say, I'll give myself just 2 seasons. With what Ten Hag is doing, 2 seasons, trust me, you will not see the likes of Phil Jones and Maguire playing
and like to
team.
help you with this, we talk about phasing players, but we forget that Mourinho has even done it before. But his was not with money. When he went to Porto in the first season, he literally had to put about 12 players on transfer. They didn't have the money. But he did not have the might to buy the players. He went into the academy and he started bringing Deku and the likes. And he went for misfit. I think we should study Mourinho's. He went for misfit. Manish was actually an outcast at Benfica. He brought him in. So all of the players, even with Benny McCarthy was their player on loan. They brought him in the second, so he actually phased out all of the old players because Porto were going through a serious turmoil. So with phasing out players, great managers do it. Ferguson did it. When he came in, there was a time he had to phase out Mark Hughes, Steve Bruce, and all of that.
I agree to all of these.
But yours is that he did it with money.
No, I agree to all of these assertions. Look at the struggles that somebody like Jurgen Klopp has had to go through. If Jurgen Klopp had the money that Pep has at his availability to spend.
Let me diffuse that mate. Do you know how much Alisson was bought for?
Yeah, 70 million plus.
Do you know how much? Yeah, do you know how much? What's his name?
Van Dijk.
Van Dijk was bought
70.
For? Yeah.
I gave you how much Keita was bought for.
60.
Yeah, 60.
How much was Darwin Núñez bought for?
80.
80.
How much was what is it called? Cody Gakpo. 50 plus.
Yeah.
Salah was almost 40.
Salah was almost 40. Do you know how much Diaz bought for? So you have a manager. You see, every manager and how they spend. I've always said that if anybody wants to say that, I look at the great managers across Europe and almost each and every one of them spends. Because one, you do not control the market. There are players out there, you may fancy them, but you do not control the price. And on any given day, I do not think Enzo Fernandez is worth 100 million pounds.
Plus.
Actually, it's more than that.
It's more than
Enzo Fernandez is not worth that.
But his was more like it was a buyout clause. So there's nothing you can do about it.
So if you want a player that actually has a buyout clause, I think that let's establish this fact. Money does not play football.
Of course.
But money plays a crucial role in you attaining a certain level of success.
Exactly.
And for that,
but we know that Liverpool ran a different model. Liverpool ran the model where you would have to sell players to buy.
Yeah.
Do you know that in actual sense, City across the league have sold more players than any other team last
The net. Who's talking about
you
the
know
net?
that
City have made some solid.
They've made a lot of money in selling players.
purchases. They've made some solid money selling players, but Liverpool ran an entirely different model. If you look at the Liverpool model, they would have to generate fans by selling key players. That's why Liverpool supporters are constantly on our neck about next spend. I think that in the era of Pep Guardiola, in the era of Jurgen Klopp, they have perfected that phrase. You understand? If you talk about the next spend of Jurgen Klopp at Liverpool, it has to be one of the most on point net spends. You understand? So if Jurgen Klopp hypothetically didn't have to have the burden of selling players before he can generate enough revenue to buy the players that he wishes to. I mean, listen, Pep Guardiola is not under any pressure to sell any player before he's given the money he wants to replace a whole team. And I say this because you look at Pep Guardiola, you look at the ruthlessness. Would he have been this ruthless if they didn't have this level of financial backing?
I think that he would. The reason why I'm saying this is I'm looking at value addition. I'm coming from the angle of value addition. you can buy £100 million player, but the 100 million does not make the player score 100 goals.
Are you talking about Anthony?
Oh, no, I'm actually not. What I'm trying to say is I'm talking about value addition. So you can choose to buy a player for X amount, but his price tag does not determine the level of football he is coming to play. He may come with a certain reputation, but the player has to go through a certain form of process to determine whether he can deliver or not. And there are a lot of players who have come for certain price tags who have failed to deliver. But if you look at all the players that Pep Guardiola has seemingly acquired, you are the statistician, Percy. If he has acquired 10 players, you can say yes, out of the 10, about 6 of them have gone on to become world beaters. Just about 4 of them have probably phased out. So if you buy 10 players, you have 6 of them coming up, you probably say, okay, that is above average. So relatively, it's not about buying big, it's about improving, and that is where I think he's done very well. Look at John Stones. Do you know that John Stones, there was a time when John Stones was so error prone. I don't know if you remember.
Yeah,
when we talk about John Stones, he would make a mistake and City would concede a goal. There were times when we spoke about Gabriel Jesus and his profligacy, Raheem Sterling and his profligacy, Leroy Sané and his profligacy.
They went on to give double figures.
A lot of players have improved under Pep Guardiola. A typical example, Maguire. I see Maguire as a typical John Stones in the making.
Oh, come on.
We are seeing John Stones now because there's been a certain level of progression. Now, Partey and Rodri were in the same team, literally. They grew up in the same Atletico Madrid. But look at the level with which Rodri has taken his game and look at where Partey is. I always say that if Partey found himself under any manager, a manager like probably Jurgen Klopp, or a manager like Ten Hag, or a manager like Pep Guardiola, I think he would have taken Partey's, or they would have taken Partey's game to another level.
Why is
Partey's
Ten Hag
game
not taking Anthony to another level?
There are certain players there's nothing you can do about.
let me just add
So
this.
I look at Pep Guardiola as one of those few managers who add value to players. There was this, before Percy comes in, there was this player United signed. I don't know if it was under Ole Gunnar Solskjaer. It was a midfield pair between Frankie de Jong. There was one player, he was also from Ajax. Frankie de Jong and
Van
one
de
other
Beek.
player. Van de Beek.
Yeah.
Is that guy still there?
Exactly. And exactly.
He
Look
had
at
an
that
ACL,
player.
yeah.
Imagine Van de Beek had come under Ten Hag.
Well, I think I've seen Van de Beek play at the Ten Hag.
And he was
the guy is not simply not responding to treatment.
So clearly, you see, it's not about he responding to treatment. Only has damaged the goods.
But why there's another school of thought before we drop this off this thought. People have sought to suggest that Pep Guardiola's rise to prominence, it was somewhat coupled with his ability to spot talent from the academies. So at Barcelona, there was a lot of reference points. We can point to Sergio Busquets, we can point to all of those other guys that he brought through the academy. At Bayern Munich, there were a lot of reference points, you understand? Why is he failing to replicate such from City? In fact, there's a famous quote by Pep Guardiola that he would rather promote somebody from the academy than to spend £100 million on Jack Grealish.
Yes,
and this is just my literal translation. You understand? I do not want anybody to hold me responsible. Why is he seemingly departing from his principles?
I wouldn't call that his principles. I would call that he said those things
out of poverty.
Apart from that, he didn't. I wouldn't say that.
Did he say that?
There are two people that I don't believe in sport. One is a coach, the other one is a footballer. The two of them, I don't believe them.
They don't believe anybody.
What I'm trying to
I love this club. 2 years later.
Did you watch Heart of Oak tonight?
You see, when Guardiola started, all he knew was the Catalan style of football. He was actually in charge of their second team before he came into the first team. And that principle, La Masia, was there. So when he came in, he had to actually promote Busquets so that he would put Yaya Touré to go and play defense. It was one of the things he did. He promoted a few players. When he went to Bayern too, he was still in this principle. I think that one of the places where this ideology started fading off was Bayern Munich. Of course, in Bayern Munich, he improved players and he brought in a player like Joshua Kimmich to start from right back so that you have Lam playing in the midfield. When he entered the EPL, his ideology had to change entirely.
So
number one
says Joshua Kimmich. I actually didn't know this. Joshua Kimmich was actually bought.
Yeah, he was, but he wasn't brought from the
He wasn't
academy.
brought.
Yeah,
He wasn't brought from the academy. So
It was actually bought.
Let me get you the price tag for
Bought
Joshua
as a
Kimmich.
right fullback. Yeah.
Yes, Joshua Kimmich.
He came from Leipzig.
Actually came in for 8.5 million.
How old was he?
Leipzig
At the time he came in, Joshua Kimmich was
18, 19.
I'm coming 18 years together with
Okay.
the same age like Trent Alexander.
Yeah.
Okay, so when he went to Bayern, I was even coming to even say something like when he went into Bayern and he had left that system that Barca used to operate in. Bayern, of course, they promote young ones, but when it comes to crunch, they are not really fixated on intentionally trying to promote players from the academy.
They actually hardly do that.
If they promote you, you don't play that season.
Yeah.
You go and come back. That was what they did to Cruz. He actually had to leave and go and play in Leverkusen with Arturo Vidal and his likes and come the next season. Bastian Schweinsteiger went through the same thing. That is what they do. Thomas Müller and his likes are one of the few players, even Matt Hummels, he had to leave and go to Bayern and come back. So in the past like 10, 15 years, the only players that you've seen them come straight from the academy, you can mention Thomas Müller and maybe Jamal Musiala. Almost all of the 11. That's what they do. That's what they do. So they don't really accept to that. And when he came to the Premier League, and he had to do something, he realized that in the Premier League, you have to hit the ground running. Another thing to have to do with the academy. See, City players, the City Academy players, were very good. Sancho, Jude Bellingham and his likes. But they realized that City has already started a project that hardly allows the young ones to actually play in the first team. So most of them, like Sancho for instance, after playing in 2017, the under-17 with Callum Hudson-Odoi and his likes, after that he realized he was a big player because they had won the under-17, but he wasn't getting play time. He had to leave. So he left and went to BVB and he was a hit. When he took that part, the rest had to follow. So now all the English young lads were going. So upon he coming into the Premier League, he realized that one, their academy is producing young ones who are not ready to actually come and play because they don't want to play second fiddle. With that, the only player that he could really accept to it that I want this player to stay was Phil Foden. Save him, he realized that it was going to be an impossible task. Even the Barca who are implementing the La Masia have even thrown it away. Apostles because they realize that where football is going to, it was those times that you have to nurture and nurture and nurture, but now the fans are impatient. The teams have spoiled their fans with trophies and with success. They've seen success over the years. And this is an era that the sheikhs are throwing in money. That is, they didn't bring you in to promote players from the academy. So I think one of the reasons why these things are happening is one, the demand from the employers and the demand from the supporters.
Kofi, to add something little to what Percy is saying, even if you look at the players he promoted at Barcelona, so there is the likes of Marc Bartra, Cuenca, Cuenca, Christian Teo,
You are really mentioning players.
Yes, Christian Teo. There's Christian Teo. There's Cuenca. There's Thiago Alcantara.
What about Jeffren?
Jeffren.
Yes.
There's Guy Oseling. There are a lot of players, but even those players, we can just mention Thiago Alcantara. You can mention a bit of Marc Bartra. You can mention of Sergio Busquets.
Marc Bartra, take him out.
We can make mention of Sergio Roberto, who have gone on. Even Marc Bartra did not go on to become. So it's not. I always say, people talk about the La Masia. I think for academy, it deals with seasons and times. There are seasons, Kofi, you cannot overlook the academy because there's so much quality and talent coming from the academy that you do not have a choice.
Yeah.
You would have to dig in, and if there's so much touted Manchester United academy. In the last 10 seasons, how many of those players from the academy have gone on to become great? So it's about the seasons. If there comes times when you cannot undeniably, go there and pick players. I'm sure managers will go there and pick players. We are seeing Phil Foden. We are seeing Palmer. Palmer has become a mainstay. We are seeing Rico Lewis. He's become a mainstay in this team. And so there are indications that if the talents pop up, they will be used.
But you can't rely on them.
You cannot rely. You saw Palmer today. Very skillful, but less intelligence in terms
it's
of
just like Christian Theo.
Went to pass. Exactly, Christian Theo went to pass, went to the only player that has developed and is developing is Phil Foden. So I think that for that you cannot blame a manager so much, because where there's talent, they will go there and pick them, and if there's no talent,
I think to add to this, even Chelsea had errors that they have had to go to the academy, because the within the past 5 years, within the past 5 years, they've been able to get Mason Mount. So as at the time they won the Champions League, they had academy players like 3. You actually had James on the right back from the academy. You had Callum Hudson-Odoi. You had Mason Mount. All of these players were from the Chelsea academy. But so even the Chelsea that we tout them as a team that doesn't really go into the academy, there have been times they go, but there is also a very long stretch that they realize, Charlie, based on the demand, either by the supporters or by our employers, because teams as big as that, hardly would they bring you in that come and develop talent. No. It was those times that, of course, if they are in transition, there are a few managers that, okay, in whatever that they do, they will still want to. But now, the demand, Guardiola cannot afford that. He would put away the fact that he has to win a champion. It will be tough.
It will be tough, because you're seeing Vinicius. Which of these academy boys can come up against Vinicius?
No.
Which of these boys can come up?
Well, I think it's 30 minutes to time, and then we are preparing to shave Lucky.
Please.
We are preparing to shave Lucky.
Please.
Somebody puts forward a very interesting proposition
Uh-huh.
that I start the shave and Percy finishes it.
I think I'll be.
I think it's an interesting proposition.
On a bit of interesting perspective, I think that Wednesday, City made the Champions League final 2 in 3 years. I think very commendable. 2 years ago, City were there. Last year, they came up short against Real Madrid in the semi-finals. This year, they've gone again a step further in the finals. And I mean, we previewed this game from the day the draw was made. And if our viewers, those who've been following us from day one, they know the stance the two of you took. And so today I'll play the devil's advocate. I'll not come in a lot. Let me start from you, Kofi. Thank God you said you've watched this game over and over and over again. And so clearly you can give us a proper perspective to it. First of all, where did it go wrong for Real Madrid, and where did it go right for Manchester City?
Everything went wrong for Real Madrid. I think they were absolutely overwhelmed.
Overwhelmed by?
Tactically, they were not too prepared for some of the tactical tweaks that Pep Guardiola particularly deployed in that first half. And I think that the game was virtually won in the first half. If you look at the first half critically, it was that one element of John Stones that brought a lot of confusion to the camp of Real Madrid. They simply did not know how to handle John Stones and what he did in that particular first half. Yes, you can talk about the brilliance of all the players and all of the things that happened. Listen, in the first half, if you watch this Madrid team, they're a team that are not the greatest pressing team. But when they want to press, they press in unison, you understand? But with the role that Pep Guardiola deployed John Stones to play, what happened was that anytime Real Madrid wanted to effect a press, they were not too sure about which characters to press. You understand? Because there was seemingly a gap between the defense and the midfield anytime they wanted to press. You understand? So there was that lack of concentration on who to target. And I think that listen, I'm not the biggest fan of Pep Guardiola, but what he did to Real Madrid in that first half, it was an absolute tactical brilliance, and it was down to the brilliance of the manager. Ancelotti did not realize what was hitting him till they were 2 goals down. And when he reacted, it was too little, too late. Because he realized that in the second half, Real Madrid tried to get into the element. What happened was that even the commentator kept pointing it, that Real Madrid had to shift to a back 3. because there was an overload in the midfield by City.
To create some form of balance
Exactly.
in the middle of the
So
park.
if you wanted to counter what Pep Guardiola was punching you with, then you needed to drop one body from the defense into the midfield so that you could show up the gap that John Stones and the likes. And what John Stones did was that he was creating a lot of opportunities for the City midfielders. The traditional.
Is this same John Stones that years ago? I mean,
But John Stones, when he rose to prominence with Everton, was always a very good player, very good on the ball. But yes, you talked about the fact that sometimes it's loss of concentration and the ability to switch off. You understand? If you want to be a top footballer, you'd have to master the art of keeping your concentration levels on point for 90 minutes. That's what the best players in the world do. But with John Stones, he had a tendency to switch off at certain point in time. So what he's been able to, he's always been one of those British boys who is very comfortable with the ball at his feet. You can say same about Harry Maguire. I do not know what has happened to Harry Maguire. Honestly,
he needs a manager who can get into his.
Well, I think Harry Maguire is done.
I think
that Harry Maguire is done.
He's
He's done. Harry Maguire is not. He will not pass for a player. You understand?
Anyway,
so that was it. I mean, I think that the first half was a tactical masterclass by Pep Guardiola. I mean, listen, give it to him. They ran circles around Real Madrid. Real Madrid were virtually confused. They did not know what was hitting them and where they were being hit from. And you see, when that happens, the players deploy a scattergun approach. And so everything that Real Madrid did in that first half was simply not orchestrated. It was more reactionary than they being composed and then doing what they don't know to do best. So they were reacting to everything the City was throwing at them, but they were not reacting right because they had not been able to identify the problem.
Could it have been worse for Real Madrid because in a game that you get mauled by 4-0, your goalkeeper is the best player?
Well,
because if Halad had put in some of, I need to comment
back to that conversation. Back to that conversation we had last week. Back to that conversation we had last week. You guys still think Haaland is the ish?
I think Haaland is the ish.
After what you saw, after what you saw in.
I'll come back. That's what I'll play the devil's advocate. I'll come to Pez. I think that question will be thrown at Chelsea, but. You blame Haaland, especially the second header, the one that Thibaut Courtois was coming from the right, and Haaland was actually, and that is how you head the ball from the direction the goalkeeper is coming from. But the way, for some weird reason, Thibaut Courtois had to adjust his body and make that save. It's like he did everything right. You don't fault the attacker.
How do you hold brief for the player? You train all week to put away those chances.
But these things happen. But Kofi,
you train all week.
Let's conclude on it, and I have a nice question for Percy, who was, that spiritual man, the Real Madrid man, when the anthem is played.
Well, he said something yesterday. I think that will.
I'll get with
those
Kofi,
elements.
You look at this Real Madrid team. You look at Carlo Ancelotti, and it looks like in the moment when it mattered this season, and a lot of people have actually said that I saw that against Atletico Madrid. I saw that against Real Sociedad when they were actually just 4 points behind Barcelona. I saw that against Barcelona in the first leg. Moments when you feel that Real Madrid need to push a little to get the ultimate. For some reason, Carlo Ancelotti gets tactically outsmarted. Do you think that this Real Madrid team can succeed? Because from what I'm hearing, Perez will keep Carlo Ancelotti next season. Will they be able to succeed because we are looking at the Champions League, in the Champions League with Carlo Ancelotti?
Well, Carlo Ancelotti is a top manager. You cannot take that away from him. Carlo Ancelotti, all-time top 6, top 5 managers. I'll put him in there. He's a top manager. What Real Madrid have done so well is to conceal some of the gaps that they have in their team. I mean, yes, we've always talked about the fact that Real Madrid are virtually rebuilding before our very eyes. They have brought in Tchouaméni, they have brought in somebody like Camavinga, you understand? But they are letting those boys play in different roles and are sticking with the old guys.
Even Militao, when they let go of Ramos.
In that game against City, you realize that there was clearly the deficiency of Luka Modric. Yes, he's a brilliant player. He served Real Madrid so well, but he did not have simply the energy to match that energy of that City midfield. I think that Ancelotti is a top manager, and for Real Madrid to bridge the gap, they need to get their signings on point this summer.
Is City winning the Champions League? So on the 10th of June, I think we have a special package for our viewers.
The special package is for you at the end.
We'll give them a brief in relation to the Champions League.
The special package is for you at the end.
Do you think City will win the Champions League? They are coming up against an Inter Milan side led by Simeone Inzaghi. An Inter Milan side all throughout this competition, their major efficiency has been the compactness in the middle, with they playing the 3-5-2 formation with Dzeko and Lautaro Martinez as the two arrowheads, with literally 5 midfielders who serve as wing backs when the team is in attacking mood. When the team concedes possession, those 2 wing backs fall back to defense and become 5-3-2. So instead of the 3-5-2, when they lose possession, it actually becomes 5 defenders with 3 midfielders, then 2 attackers. Sometimes you even have Edin Dzeko join in the midfield or even in the defense to show up. It's one of the reasons why they have been very, very consistent in this season's Champions League. They've stuck to that formation. I mean, very tactically disciplined and very compact team. I saw them against Bayern Munich, even though they lost over 2 legs, but they were very, very compact. Bayern could have mauled them. Against Barcelona, likewise, Barca couldn't break them down. You saw them against AC Milan when they were strikerless. You cannot break them down when you are strikerless because they're a very compact team. They're coming up against a City side that literally are an attacking force in Europe. Talk to me about that game. I'm not going to go there because everybody knows that you can bow down your head in shame for giving us all the spiritual connotations and all of that about the Champions League and all of that.
Okay.
Be careful and don't predict City are winning because it looks like this season all your predictions have gone down the drain.
All my predictions have not gone down the drain.
To City.
With respect to City, for that game, I said to Kofi,
he's fumbling.
Oh no, I'm not fumbling. With respect to City, it was one mistake that Ancelotti did. I thought starting the game, he was not going to play a 4-3-3. He was supposed to drop Rodrigo. That was the mistake he did. He was supposed to play a 4-4-2.
Sorry, a 4-2.
A 4-4-2 between Kroos and Modric. One should have been on the bench. So one comes to change the game. I thought that Kroos especially would be on the bench.
And what would have that done to the team?
So what?
Instead of keeping a compact 4-4-2.
So now if they play a 4-4-2, that means I wasn't expecting Militao to come and take away Rudiger. I was expecting to still be Alaba and Rudiger with the right being Carvajal. Although you played Camavinga the last time, bring Mendy back. Your midfield should have been Tchouaméni because already was 1-1. Tchouaméni, Camavinga, Modric. Then you bring Valverde, who would always play in the midfield and also can play in the right midfield. Then you just put Kroos, Benzema and Vinicius ahead. With that, you have overloaded the midfield so much, and you know that Benzema on every day will come and join the midfield. So at every point in time, you have about 5. But even if you're playing a 4-3-3, why do you play a 232 plus old players so that they would be able to battle Ike Gundogan, Kevin De Bruyne, Rodri, and John Stones? So the game was lost in the midfield. And the next thing was that it forced Ancelotti to play nonsense. He was making wrong substitutions. Then he started taking off this player, bringing this player in. And I'm like, if you listen to the commentator, he was so surprised with the changes that he was making, because I thought he actually rested the players within the weekend and brought in all of these players like Asensio and the rest, so that within the course of the week. So for me, for that game, it was lost because of, and not only because of Guardiola's brilliance, for that we'll give it to him, but Ancelotti at that level should have known that you went into the game and it was more like a draw. You could have started and relaxed, soaked enough pressure with a lot of midfielders. I'm not going to spend.
Will Inter pose serious threat to or dent the treble aspiration of Manchester City?
I'm not here to talk about treble because it's not happening. I'm just talking about Champions League.
I think the treble happened. I've told you about the history of the first.
Do you know this? Do you know the reason why I don't want to talk about it?
Yeah.
Because even before we get to the Champions League final, there wouldn't be any need to talk about treble.
On the 10th of June,
you let me stick to.
On the 10th, they'll win it.
Let me let me.
The treble talk will be quashed before we even.
So you let me think of the Champions League final.
Now,
you know that with me,
yeah.
if it has to do with the league, of course there are a few connotations with the league which I wouldn't want to really talk about. But you don't buy the Champions League with money. It's not about what I think. I am giving you facts. You don't buy Champions League with money. Relax. You relax. We don't buy Champions League with money. Champions League is trend. Champions League is history, and it hardly, if it is statistics that you are making, if it is 9.9 is correct.
Okay.
Yesterday I was telling Kofi here that last time 3 Italian teams went to a final in the Champions League, in the UEFA Cup and the Intercontinental. That is in the not in the Toto, in the Cup Winners' Cup. The first one was 89-90. Arrigo Sacchi's first Champions League, 89-90. That's what, okay, second one, 89-90. That time, they actually won the Champions League. And Juventus won the UEFA Cup. But we had Sampdoria and Roma in that one. But in the Cup Winners' Cup, they didn't win. The next one, which actually really matches this, is 1993-1994. That was when you had the Champions League, also this AC Milan meeting Barcelona. And I was telling Kofi yesterday that there was Tiki Bekistan playing the right wing. That is City, their sporting director. And Guardiola playing defensive midfield. And they were mauled 4-0. That very year, you also had Italian teams going into the UEFA Cup, which an Italian team won. And the only one that an English team won this year too was Arsenal. That was the first time they won the UEFA Cup. That was the Cup Winners' Cup. This time too, the final is an Italian team, but it is rather a Spanish team. Then the Europa is an Italian team in Roma, and
No, Sevilla.
And the third one is West Ham, another English team. And West Ham. The next, another London team.
Yeah.
Let's also go to 1990. Now in 1990, that was the time that Argentina won. The time they won the World Cup, an Italian team won the Champions League.
Okay.
That was the World Cup year. And this year too, it is the Argentines who won. Although it is still within the course of the season, they won. And it is also an Inter going into the Champions League final. I've already told you about the Croatian case. That for the past about 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons, you need to have a Croatian. And these things, when we talk about people, like, it's just like if you want to go to the World Cup final, since 1998, you need to have an Inter Milan player. If you don't have an Inter Milan player, you won't go to the final. So all the teams that go to the final, 1998.
So the previous years, you see.
No, listen. That's why I gave you a trend, and it has never broken even up to this last World Cup.
But let's say those who want to win the World Cup will also visit the trend before 98. So you, because of time, you think that because of your,
it's not about what I think. And the last thing I am adding to it is that if you are qualifying to the Champions League final, I am not saying that. City, I am not saying that.
Talk about what happened to the Lakers.
I am not saying that City cannot win, but if we are doing the odds of City winning, there is one thing that was against City, which they had to break the dark. That was that for you to win a Champions League, I gave you only about 3 or 4 teams who have won the Champions League on their first time. Steaua Bucharest did it the first time. Red Star Belgrade did it the first time. You also have PSV Eindhoven doing it the first time, and Porto. Apart from that, most of those who won had to go to the final and lose. City had gone to the final and have lost. So going to this final, anything can happen. But for me, I am not going to say that it is a might. City will not
win the Champions League.
We will not win this Champions League. It will be a shocker.
So guys, before we even talk about
The seat has been brought.
guys, before we even talk about the Champions League, hopefully,
our brother, come
on
and
the
sit here.
2 weeks from now, Percy has already predicted that City will not win the.
I told Kofi that my prophet has told me.
Yes,
my prophet has given me
gone
my.
on to say all the things like 2 weeks ago or a week ago. He was saying everything about Manchester City and all of that. But Kofi,
Please sit down.
don't worry.
No, sit down.
But
I
Kofi,
mean, this
Kofi,
serious business.
a quick one.
We've already talked about the Lakers.
Between
already-
City,
yeah, we've already
between
talked
City,
about the Lakers.
between Napoli, between Barcelona. See now, this Barca team is a good team. Which one of these victories or which one of these teams annexing their league for you is so impressive? Barca, even in their worst state, set a lot of records in the La Liga. Napoli, look at what Spalletti has done with Napoli. City, look at what City has done. Which is the most impressive for you?
Impressive. I mean,
Across
yesterday we
Europe.
spoke about Barca's record in the Champions
Yeah, they are the
League.
most defensive team and one of the most defensive teams in modern football.
So let's stick to which
Napoli.
or what grounds
I'm
quickly.
done.
60 seconds.
Napoli, I think Spalletti has done an amazing job with Napoli. I look at the components of that team. I look about how they've been able to replace some of the players. It will happen. It will happen. How they've been able to replace the players. In fact, Napoli. So I'm done. I mean, I think that respectfully, respectfully, you need to sit down.
You know me, I'm a man of my words. I'm a man of my words. I'm not happy today.
Respectfully, it needs to happen today.
You have like 10 minutes to go.
No.
For you. You know,
Messi.
ironically,
We are boycotting anything.
I don't know why he wants to continue.
Ironically, you know that Bayern Munich are almost giving up the league title in Germany. They literally, with Dortmund winning this afternoon,
they are
it
on
means
top of
they are
the
on
league.
top of the
Yeah.
league with I think about 2 games
A
or
game
3.
to go.
Oh wow,
Just
a game
a
to
game,
go.
yeah, just a game.
So it's looking likely that Dortmund would
Win
annex
the
because
league, yeah.
the next game they are playing at home.
So they actually fired their coach so that they will surrender the league.
So if let's say Dortmund wins this league among the 4 teams, Barcelona, Dortmund, City, and Napoli, which has been the most
Kofi
impressive.
is saying you are behaving like someone typing in the group and you are blocked. So yeah.
Oh, guys,
Lucky. Do you know something?
what's happening with the poll?
The poll is that it's unanimous.
93%.
How is that unanimous?
It is almost.
3% think
It's
that you need to
Kofi,
sit
before
down.
we
So,
check out,
no,
take
please
some
sit down. No, please sit down. You cannot run away from sit.
Wait.
No, whilst you sit,
Wait.
whilst you
You see,
sit, whilst you sit,
truth be told,
we will pick
this-
comments.
Oh, but on all honesty, this is not a clipper.
No, this is a
what-
clip.
saving beard.
No, but
Please,
your
please.
hair is more like a beard.
Otherwise, I'll get goosebumps.
Don't worry, don't worry. We will start for you.
No.
This is not a clipper. So guys, Kofi should bring a clipper this week. No, it's like saying,
Please
it's
sit
like
down.
saying you're going to use razor.
No, so sit down and plead your case.
We
I mean,
actually
you
wanted
need
to
sit
use
down
a
and
razor
plead your
and
case.
everything had to
So
change.
sit
We
down.
brought you a chair.
I have
Sit down.
guys.
Plead
I have
your case.
I have yes. I'm pleading my case. I have
So you
volunteered
sit
that
on the chair.
I have volunteered that I am willing for them to
My guy,
do
you need
whatever.
to start.
Oh yes, I used to, my roommates were trusting me with this
Yeah.
job.
That's
Okay.
a proper clipper.
So we have a proper.
We have a proper clipper. Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah,
good.
proper
There's a
clipper.
clipper here.
Yeah.
Where is the medication? How do I know it's
Which
infected?
medication?
It
Please,
is
we-
not-
I can't tell if it's infected or not. I can't.
It's been,
Because guys, Kofi is not a professional. Percy is not a professional.
We don't
The
need
tendency-
certificate.
the tendency
Who
that-
goes to school to learn how to barber hair? Who
Oh,
goes to
It's
school?
something you is a
No,
trade you pick
no.
up.
Please,
no.
my barber towel.
That
Towel
was-
doesn't go. He never had a
Is he
certificate.
not a pro in what he
That
does?
was not
How-
we signed
what is
up
a
He
for.
pro?
doesn't need education.
Who is a pro?
He learnt it.
Towel. Now, do you know where I learned mine from?
Please, you
Yeah.
didn't.
I learned
Guys,
mine from my hall.
Unless they have proper clippers, proper trimmers. Well, what's the name for it? You need to actually.
We don't need a cream. You
No,
don't
I'm
have.
not talking about. You need to actually.
Methylated
Yes.
sterilized.
It's
Sterilized.
sterilized all day, all
We
day.
just picked it from the sterilization.
It's sterilized, and I mean, I don't know where it's coming from. So, guys,
My guy,
on that
You
note,
need to sit
we love you
down.
so much. And congratulate Manchester City for winning.
No, Lucky, I think that you need to sit down.
Oh, I'm not saying I won't do it. I will do it when go and sterilize.
Okay, so when are you availing yourself for the shave?
When it is sterilized.
No, I mean look into the camera.
It
and
is
just
even
no.
Give
It's
us the
sterilized.
time, because you are not going to the salon.
When
We are
I'm
doing it here.
available for the shave
Yes.
on the 10th of June.
No,
10th of June is
no, we cannot wait.
When
We can't wait.
it is
We
within the
simply
calendar.
cannot wait.
No.
That's not what we signed up for. We signed
Premier
up for
League
the
is ended
EPL.
on Sunday.
When are we having our Premier League review?
The league is ending
On
on
Sunday.
Sunday.
So yes, Sunday.
Look into the
look
camera.
into the
Look
camera.
here.
This Sunday, they will sterilize the machine.
Don't worry.
And I'll get my hair shaved.
Here, you have to make it clear. We want so that you can't meander your way. It's
Yeah.
law. So say
Yeah.
it into the camera.
I've said it to you.
No, I am shaving my hair here,
I am
live
shaving-
on camera.
I am shaving my hair because I blindly.
No, we
I
don't care
blind-
about your
I
blindness.
blindly
We don't care
advocated
about your
for
blindness.
asthma.
And it will be done by either of us.
So guys, thank you so much for staying in tune.
This is what asthma has done to me.
This shaving will come off, God willing, a week today.
Same time.
Same time,
Same
7 p.m. to 9
You
p.m.
shouldn't
We
message.
will allocate
What
a
Ralph is
10
doing
minute.
is not nice at all. Why would he
Well,
go
I
to
think
tell you to
no.
get you the
Ralph
clinic?
is letting you become a faithful man. You
Yes.
understand?
I'm
And
always a
so
faithful man.
Yes,
you
this is
need
one
to
of
be
the-
true to your words. You
You
understand?
have to
So
be.
we will do the shaving on Sunday. Today is 21st.
Yes, today is
Sunday 28th of
28th.
May.
Yes,
We
yes.
will do the shaving.
Yes, we will.
And then we'll crown it being the season ender.
Yeah.
You understand? So
Yes.
we will shave your hair, export it to London, and give it to Arsenal. You understand?
We'll show it on Arsenal fan TV.
We'll use it as souvenir for Arsenal.
Guys, good night. I love you so much.